Big. Big Dad DK. Big Dad DK. That's what the rumors are talking about. he moved into town 2 years ago, and he's shaking up with sustainability of this town and the entire globe. Bjarke Ingels. Bjarke.
Sí.
Sí. Él habla español. Él habla español.
Puedo decir sí.
No, y algunas cosas también. Yo me recuerdo que dijiste que estudiaste en España.
Sí, verdad.
De
mucho tiempo.
De lo poco que recuerdo, porque con tanta bulla que teníamos en Sustainatopia, era demasiado. Pero hablas español.
Sí, un poquito.
¿Qué puedes decir en español así para nuestro público? Porque no he visto nada en español de ti.
Ah, no, nunca. Pues nunca hemos hecho algo hemos ganado un concurso en México.
Ajá.
Para la Fundación Tamayo con mi amigo Michel Roquequind.
Ajá.
Pero las cosas están ¿cómo se dice? Avanzando con mucho despacio.
Muy despacio, muy bien. ¿Y eso por qué?
No sé, porque al final el alcalde de la ciudad no quería regalar el sitio a la fundación y ahora no sabemos si el proyecto va a estar realizado.
¿Y te apetecería entrar en la comunidad latina en el mundo? ¿Tienes algún planeado algún proyecto?
Sí, ahora tenemos un contrato con el, ¿cómo se llama? The Bishop.
Ajá, el arzobispo.
El obispo de Curitiba, para hacer un templo para todas las religiones del mundo, que sería un proyecto fantástico.
Now you hit the spot. Me has dado en el punto. Oh, Dios mío, qué emocionante.
Sí, y creo que como cada religión tiene sus propios mitos, sus propios rituales, su propia arquitectura, combinarlos en un templo que, ¿cómo se llama? ¿Cómo se dice? Que cumple todos los mandas de todas las religiones. Vas a tener es casi como un proyecto imposible, pero al final va a ser muy complejo, y espero que podemos descubrir un estilo, una expresión muy distinta, porque tiene información de tantas varias sensibilidades.
Influencias,
sí,
religiosas.
Exacto.
Yo me imaginaría que sería un templo donde la naturaleza es lo más importante.
Así puede ser, sí.
¿No piensas tú?
No hemos empezado, pero
la tierra es tan rica y es tan bella,
sí.
Y ese es el trabajo que tú haces.
Sí, puede ser que algo muy de vivo y orgánico, no sé. Pues sería bastante interesante empezar con una, ¿cómo se dice? Riqueza. Empezar muy disciplinado, estudiar las reglas de cada religión, las mandas de cada religión, y al final ver qué sale, no sé.
Claro.
Puede ser que hay algo que es lo mismo en cada religión, y esta mezcla de las mandas que son los mismos y
los
los
mandatos
mandatos que son completamente distintos. Pues al final creo que hay que cambiar a inglés, si no voy a...
No, pero me encanta
salir
porque...
como un loco.
No, yo no te dejo salir como un loco, no, estás haciendo fenomenal, me has impresionado. Latino, Latino power. This is 20 and this is 10. Me encanta. Y ser la primera que te entrevista en español, todavía muchísimo mejor. Bienvenido a los Estados Unidos, bienvenidos aquí a la ciudad de los rascacielos. No te preocupes que yo tampoco hablo un español fenomenal. Llevo muchos años en este país, entonces hablo una mezcla, what we call, bilingual. We go back and forth. Hablamos en inglés, hablamos un poquito en español,
Perfecto.
and we mix everything. Okay,
Estupendo.
this is for the yes.
Bilingual.
Yes, for the underserved community in the United States and out there in the world, en los países latinoamericanos, que es enorme. ¿Has estado en Latinoamérica, en Sudamérica?
Sí, bastantes veces. Tengo muchos amigos en México y además he viajado en Brasil, Bolivia, Argentina.
Wow.
¿Cómo se llama? Paraguay.
Paraguay, sí. ¿Y qué te ha llamado la atención? ¿Ha sido por trabajo o por vacaciones?
Una mezcla, pero en Brasil de vacaciones.
Aparte de las chicas en Brasil.
No, además para la escritura realmente,
Claro.
como hay tanta... La primera vez que he llegado a Río de Janeiro, he pensado que al final he visto el potencial del modernismo. He escrito un carta postal a un amigo, he visto la cara del modernismo y es mulato. But like, I think because like I'm switching.
Yes,
so
it's
we
okay.
do
Don't worry.
bilingual.
Yes.
So I think because you've seen so much, like a lot of modernism actually resulted in, sad housing projects and empty spaces between the buildings. And I think when you go to Ipanema and Copacabana, you have this like hedonistic modernism where it's, the spandrels are clad in like a nice marble. The balconies, you have a glass floor to ceiling, the mullions are made out of chrome, you have like a beautiful stone, you have a view over a beach that's the pavement is clad in Pedro Portuguese, in like black and white colors, in abstract patterns, and so it's like this it's like really a very methodical, careful way of planning the best possible lifestyle you can imagine. And that's like really what modernism was about in the good way, that modernism was about liberating architecture from the constraints of style and history. And like architecture was stuck in like just, architects were like choosing different vocabularies, like is it gonna be like, Baroque or Rococo or this or that. And instead of all these like stylistic exercises, it was about purely planning towards maximizing human enjoyment and like opening up the view, letting in the sun on the balconies. You could sit there and you could look over the beach. Like so you can really feel that was like the full potential of modernism. You really have it in, I think, in Brazil. Like this is what it was supposed to be, not the sad housing projects with empty spaces between them, but like this sort of infrastructure for a happy life.
A happy life. Yeah. What makes you happy?
I don't know. Like that's like in general, I'm quite happy. I think so. All kinds of things. I mean,
What do you do to make your life a happy day? Because I know you live a very stressful life. I can imagine with all these projects going on, and especially that you're not that encapsulated architect. that you are more open and you're not an architect that is just building monuments. You think about the people, right? And make their people's life better.
Ah, there's a huge bug.
Oh my God.
That's amazing. Have you seen it? You should almost get it on camera. That is like a gigantic...
This is a good luck. Oh my God. We call it caballito.
But maybe we should liberate it.
Yes.
I was going to try to do that, but...
It's like, somehow it's upside down.
No. Don't get it by the tail. Let it go.
But like something is wrong.
Attracted to the white.
I've never seen anything, a little horse like that. We call it horse.
So close. It's like, it's almost so big that it's like something from a little photo film.
There is nothing.
I think you simply have to grab it down on the body.
Yeah, I have to.
That's fine.
It's trying to look for the edge. Grab something over that. Okay. That's interesting. There's always something like that happening. Unexpected things. Okay.
That's pretty funny.
Wow, that was interesting. Muy interesante. Where were we? We were
talking about the happiness.
Happiness.
But oh, yeah, you were mentioning. But I think, because I mean, of course I'm busy, but I actually don't think.
You're very busy, no?
Of course I'm busy, but I think stress comes when you don't have influence on your situation. And I do, so I never really get stressed.
Do you get massages?
I just came back from climbing Kilimanjaro, and after a week on the mountain, me and a few friends went to Zanzibar, where you have the most incredibly white beaches, to do some kite surfing. And there I had some strong mamas giving me some massages. She's like, you were pretty sore after like climbing that mountain.
Wow, so you must be in a very good shape to climb for how long? You said that it was for the week?
Yeah, but it was kind of the old boys trip. So like the slower you go, the less likely you are to get height sickness. Because when you go above 3.5 kilometers, the oxygen gets gradually thinner and thinner, and eventually, like some people get sick from it. But it didn't happen for any of us. So.
Well, you were telling me, that's very interesting what you were saying, that you just took a backpack and you went through different climates completely to the streams.
Yeah, I think it's like quite amazing, because Kilimanjaro is the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, because it's a big volcano that sits alone on the savanna. So you start, so from the ground to the top it's actually 5 kilometers. So you start in a tropical rainforest. So you go around in a jungle essentially with monkeys, and then sort of on the first day you actually get up to 3 kilometers, and you go right through the clouds and you come out on the top of the clouds. And now the jungle has gotten much smaller, so it's more like a bush. And then the next day the bush turns more like into a sort of more like a wilderness with smaller plants and cactus, and you have like this special palm tree that only grows on Kilimanjaro. And then sort of every day it turns into a new climate, and eventually you walk among glaciers with blue ice and volcanic ash. Wow. So it's essentially like walking from equator to the North Pole in just 1 week, because you go through the same climate zones and the same different landscapes. So it's quite a transformation.
A transformation, body, mind, and spirit, right?
That's pretty, also like you have no signal. So it's
Thank
like
God.
a week offline. It's pretty remarkable.
Out of communication. And what were you eating there?
That's kind of interesting, like you, because like as long as you're going for the summit, we were like raving about how great the food was. Like it was just like soup and whatever, like, but like as soon as we had reached the summit, sort of, the goal was no longer there, and he was just like, we can't eat this crap anymore. Like, I want a real dinner now. It was pretty funny, like, as soon as you, it was basically like, as soon as we turned around, it was like, I'm not having this soup ever again. Like,
so I assume you had a guide with you?
Yeah, we had a guide.
How many were you?
10 friends, like some of my partners here from Big, and some different friends from.
So tent, you were sleeping in tents.
Yeah.
Well, look at you, from an architect to the whole world, an inspiration, inspiring the whole globe of architects, and not only architects, inspiring all of us humanity in the world, and doing camping.
Yeah,
which is the most simple thing in life.
Yeah, but I actually think that like, because I do travel quite a bit, so like if you go to a city, you know, you can go to a museum, you can go out, you can meet friends, you can you know, eat in a restaurant, whatever. But that's what you do all the time. So I think when you take time off, I really like this idea of going to places that I won't get to like normally. Like, you know, climbing a mountain. And actually, like, so this is just going to be all about holidays. But like, so this group of us, we conceived the idea.
1 second. It's not about the holidays. It's about the men behind Big.
But also, like, you know, actually, like, in a way you could call Kilimanjaro like a field trip, because like, we did a project in Copenhagen called The Mountain. It was like this man-made mountain. A lot of our projects has this element of landscape, or like three-dimensional structures that you can actually climb. So in a way you could say climbing Kilimanjaro is like basic research for the work we do. But we actually conceived of this idea that from now on, the next 6 summers, we'll go to each continent, and then we'll do, in a different way of moving around, the most exciting thing you can do in that continent. So we started with Africa, and we climbed Kilimanjaro. So next year we'll go to Latin America.
Where?
And we'll sail down the Amazon River in a canoe. And then the idea is that after that we'll do Europe. And then we were thinking, instead of like eating that terrible soup, we'll ride Tour de France by bicycle, and then have amazing French meals every night. Then after that we'll go to North America on horseback.
Horseback
riding, like cowboy style. Then the idea is to go to French Polynesia on a sailing boat, to go between the little islands that you can only reach by sailing boat. Then New Zealand, we were thinking on a mountain bike. And then finally we would finish off going to Antarctica, the last continent, and then cross-country ski all the way to the South Pole.
Oh,
and then we're done. Like with this,
that's in the next
adventure.
5 years.
That's the next 6 years. Yeah,
6 years. Wow, that's exciting.
So they actually did she already arrive, the Barbican lady? Fuck.
She's a little early. We set her up, so she knows she's a little early. So
Okay. Okay.
soonish.
Okay. Can somebody actually could Kai Uwe maybe
I think we are, without the questions, I mean, I'm ready. What's your dream project?
I mean, I think in many ways this idea of a temple of all religions is quite amazing. Because I mean, of course, like in general, I think life is already quite interesting. So I like actually to do like ordinary projects, and then try to sort of saturate them with quality so they become something remarkable, like turning the everyday into an adventure, I think is quite exciting. But then of course to get a crazy project like the one we're doing in like this temple of all religions, it's almost like this utopian and I think very straightforward, because I mean of course you can make a house that will somehow honor and respect all of the religions, and it would be an amazing feat that, you know, if you could architecturally resolve something that is the result of conflict so many places in the world and actually accommodate it in harmony, I think is...
Where is that project?
It would be in Curitiba.
Curitiba.
And it's somehow the bishop of Curitiba has had the idea to make this temple of all religions, and I think it would be like a really... We designed a mosque in Tirana. So we have like been playing with religious buildings before. I'm not religious myself. I mean, at least not. What do you believe? No, I believe in life, and I believe in, you know, Charles Darwin and evolution and, you know, I don't know, love.
Do you believe in God?
I don't believe in a God, no. And I actually deliberately, when you're born in Denmark, you are automatically a member of the Protestant Church. And I opted out of it because I thought it was kind of bizarre to be a member of a church that I don't specifically believe in. And I think one of the problems that I have with religion in general is that quite often, because I'm much more interested in tolerance and openness than the idea that you have, what do you call it, a patent on the truth. And I think some religious people tend to believe fundamentally that they are more right because they actually have the truth. And then you get like, when people have like fundamentalist approaches to things, then it inhibits understanding, and it inhibits discovery, and it inhibits learning, because you are so entrenched that you already know that you're right, that you close your ears to other points of view. And I think that's one of the problems of certain practices of religion. And in that sense, like, for me, I would be very curious, because I mean, I would be very curious to see if it was possible to successfully accommodate all of the different religions within a single temple. Like it has this like utopian, like in a completely different way. We did a project in Copenhagen, in the most ethnically diverse neighborhood in all of Denmark, where you had 60 different nationalities living there. 60? 60, which maybe is not so much in America, but like in Denmark, it's the greatest diversity of nationalities within this neighborhood in Copenhagen, where our office is in Denmark. And as a way of making, it's a kilometer long, so it has something we call the red square, the black market, and the green park. And then we reached out to everybody in the community and asking people to nominate elements from their other home country, so it would become almost like a global best practice. And the main idea is that, you know, you don't eat Chinese food to be nice to the Chinese. It has nothing to do with political correctness or integration. It's because sometimes you crave noodles. And we don't put a Moroccan fountain in this urban space to be nice to the Moroccans, but because the Moroccans have an amazing history of architectural water features. So we got all these suggestions, and then we make this curated, so there's 120 different objects. There's like a Mexican bench that's like an S-curve, so like a love seat, so you can see the person you're sitting next to into the eyes.
So you believe in love?
Like definitely, it's one of the few things.
One of the few things.
And then, but then you have a Belgian bench. It's a circle, so everybody looks away from each other. So you have like this. It's like a country that's about to like break apart. In the Flemish and Wallonian, they have benches where you look away from each other. So it's really interesting. This sort of almost like a social study of all these different ways of doing things. You can almost say that the Earth is like one big urban laboratory where people are always making experiments in how to best inhabit their part of the world. And by doing this project, we could tap into this incredible variety and cherry pick all of the most exciting ways of doing things. So we have a small part of the world in this new urban space in Copenhagen that ends up actually reflecting the true cultural diversity of contemporary Copenhagen, rather than perpetuating some sort of a traditional image of Denmark as being only Danish. That it actually has all these different cultures integrated now.
Wow. So all your projects, you do research on religion, and for this project you're going to be diving into all the religions of the world, I assume, right?
Yeah, it's
for the
Curitiba
project, because it kind of seems like a little bit similar. You going the one that you did in. You just explaining to me right now.
Yeah, that was like an urban safari. Actually, when we won the competition, we were thinking now we're gonna go to each country and pick something. But then we realized that would be like 60 different trips. You know, if
60 different countries.
You know, if you would stay like, yeah, exactly like that. If you would stay a week each place, it would take more than a year. So.
But you, for this project in particular, I'm very interested to know that, because I'm very guided by all the spiritual religions, all the religions of the world, and I'm very curious to know how you know, going to put it together, because there is a lot of religions. So you're going to pick the most popular ones, or you're going to have them all? It's like you said, you have 60 different countries.
Oh, yeah, actually, we didn't start the project yet, so.
Oh, you haven't started yet?
No, but it'll be our first project in Latin America.
Mm-hmm. When are you starting the project?
Like it should start like right after summer, so I guess in September. So we didn't do the basic research yet, but essentially each time we do any project, we it's essentially basically what's behind us here is the basic research for a project we're doing in Buffalo in upstate New York. So it's this whole little story about the city and the museum that we're dealing with. And it's kind of interesting, like once you start, almost like no matter where you go, once you start digging, you'll find all kinds of interesting things. Like just very banal, in Buffalo, a city that I'd never been there before. It's here in upstate New York. But they actually invented all these different things, like the American Express is from there. They invented the electric chair.
Wow.
Which went in 1 year before electric streetlights. You know, they invented the daycare center for children. So like this city that I never really heard about before, apart from the Buffalo chicken wings that they also invented, actually has all of these amazing discoveries. So almost like no matter where you go, no matter what you do, as soon as you start like paying attention and caring about the culture, the climate, the history, you will discover a lot of interesting things. So in that sense, if you ask what's my dream project, I really think that in each case, even the most ordinary and most everyday, once you like look at it intensely enough and listen and learn and observe, there's the potential for some amazing discovery that all aspects of everyday life, the most ordinary actually has the potential to be the most amazing.
Wow. And who are the people that inspire you the most?
You know, I like a lot of different people, so it's always the most recent thing. Like I've been researching a little bit about the structure of storytelling.
Well, this is.
It's like so like a lot
storytelling.
But I found so most recently I've been looking at like different screenplay writers, like because in literature, because the format of the book is so open, there's not like so much research into storytelling. But for theater plays and for cinema, because the format is restricted to 2 hours, there's a much more conscious theory about how to unfold structures. So there's of course like the 3 acts of the traditional play. You know, in screenwriting you have like the 5 turning points. But there's even a Russian semiotician, Prop, who analyzed Russian folk tales. And he discovered that all of the Russian folk tales actually have 31 functions, he calls it, that they go through to unfold the story. And there's another guy called Joseph Campbell.
Oh,
do you know him?
Of course. He's one of my favorite teachers.
Oh yeah, amazing.
The myth, the power of the myth.
The myths, exactly. So he analyzed the myth and what he called the hero's journey, that you have the 12 steps that you go through in the journey, yes. And you have the different characters. So, like right now, I'm trying to sort of acquire all these different elements, and try to see if I can somehow use this, you know, the structure of myths, or the structure of the Russian folk tales, or the structure of the Hollywood script, to see if there's a way to tell stories about architecture using this knowledge.
So Joseph Campbell is one of your inspirations?
So yeah, I've been reading a lot of Campbell of recent.
Welcome to Joseph Campbell Club.
Fantastic, that's brilliant.
He's brilliant. Well, in Star Wars, he collaborated with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've been watching if you can get the film is even better.
Actually,
his voice is.
I found quite amazing. Yeah, so I have some of the documentaries. I found a quite amazing piece also on storytelling. I found a transcript of the 5.5 hours of brainstorm that George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Lawrence Kasdan have by Indiana Smith, they call him, or maybe he could be called Jones. Mm-hmm. And he's like an archaeologist working for a museum, but he's also a grave robber and a tomb raider. And then, you know, in 5.5 hours, they brainstorm the entire story and plot of Indiana Jones, the first one. And they even have like scenes from the second and the third one are also being brainstormed. And you can just, it's the most amazing document on creativity, because so many of the elements of the plot and the things that make the movie really unique actually just happen as like this brainstorm.
Where did you find that?
I want online. I'll email it to you. Okay. It's like 120 pages.
Oh wow!
But you can just see the whole thing unfolding, and it's these vague like, yeah, and he should have like he's good with the fighting, and he's good with guns, but he also has like he should have a bullwhip. Yeah, bullwhip. That's a good idea, and he can do things with the bullwhip that nobody can. Like sometimes he'll solve elements of the puzzle using the bullwhip. Yeah, that's a good idea. Put it in. Like so they're just sitting there and brainstorming, and somebody says something. Somebody says, that's not so good. Like then he turns it around, and yeah, but then we have to do this, and then suddenly you just have this super consistent story, and you can just see it unfold in 5.5 hours.
Wow, that's awesome.
Actually, like
you have to go.
Yeah, I almost have to go, but. I don't know if there's one last thing we could do, or...
yeah, let me just... Yeah, because we haven't digging into the thing... Well, the architect stuff is okay because I can get it online.
So we're only talking about storytelling and...
well, I want to know about
trips.
that. Yes, that's the most important. One thing I want to add a little bit about, what do you think what is lacking in our cities nowadays? Especially now that you moved to New York and you're part of this big boom in Manhattan. You are the big in town. Here comes big. So what do you think?
I don't know, like, I think, like one of our latest interests, I was just having a conversation with some people today that are doing a documentary about Jane Jacobs. If you know, she was a woman who was sort of in the 50s and 60s. She wrote a book called The Rise and Fall of the Great American Cities. When Robert Moses wanted the power broker, he wanted to make a highway going through Soho. She started the whole movement against this highway project to preserve Soho, and in the end she won, and that's why Soho is here today and not some big highway overpass. And I was just thinking that, our next book is going to be called the bigamy. You can have both.
The bigamy.
Because like I was thinking like it could have been quite interesting because Robert Moses was actually also quite interesting, that he was actually doing all these infrastructural projects that somehow like he built all these bridges, he made all the highways, like he made so many things that are sort of necessary and that make New York work as a city. But of course he did it at the expense of a lot of things, and it was somehow single-minded, only looking at how to resolve traffic or how to solve social housing or something. Whereas what would have been really interesting was if Jane Jacobs and Robert Moses had been collaborating, because then you would have gotten like the infrastructural thinking combined with social concern. You would have had like the big ideas realized, but sort of in a way that would like deliver like lively neighborhoods and would preserve the most like precious historical elements. And like you could have somehow, I think what's very necessary, like what's very fundamental about a city is that a city is what happens when a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, different cultures, different languages, different age groups, different ethnicities come together and co-inhabit the same space. And therefore, by definition, cities have to find ways of actually allowing a lot of different people to live together, even though they want to do different things and they have to go different places. You somehow have to find a way of making it all occur in a way where nobody collides and everybody actually gets the maximum out of their life. And I think in that sense, there's an incredible amount of potential in trying to see if you can take seemingly mutually exclusive ideas, such as Robert Moses and Jane Jacobs, and if you can combine them, if you can find ways of getting them to collaborate, to contribute to the same project, so you don't have to choose between living in a skyscraper or having a house with a garden. Maybe you can have, you know, with the project we're doing here in New York, the Court Scraper is somehow puts a little Central Park at the heart of the Manhattan city block. And I think, we try to do it step by step, but essentially there's a great potential in cities to try to take things that you would normally think are completely separate or like doesn't have anything to do with each other, and then try to see if you can bring them together and see what happens.
So if you were given the power to change one thing of New York, what would be that thing? Or, you know, that you can create, or you can build, or you can make it better?
Like one thing I would definitely change in New York, and we haven't gotten there yet, is that when we were trying to look for a place to sit for the interview today, it was almost impossible because the HVAC units make so much noise that each room has its own air conditioning machine that sits there and makes insane noise. Whereas in Europe, you know, American engineers are great at building tall skyscrapers and like amazing structures, but when it comes to doing something that is energy efficient and not so noisy, it's very, very different. Like if you've ever been, if you've ever seen like a fire truck in New York, they're so noisy that it's insane, and that's because when there's no noise in New York, you still have like the buzzing of like 12 million air conditioning units that are sitting outside the buildings, making this sort of like infernal noise. So to be able to be heard above the noise of the air conditioning, the fire truck needs to be so insanely noisy. So I think a lot could be done with a little bit more sophisticated sort of energy planning than what goes on today.
So you will change that in New York, make it better.
I'll
Let's make it better.
I'll definitely try. Definitely try. It would be very easy.
And one last question, because I have a few questions here that I didn't even go to, about our kids. Like right here in the kids, what can you, okay, this one
first. What culture?
I think I can only do one more question, then we have to go.
Okay, what would be a great thing to do that you think the world is lacking right now, our societies, our cultures, that kids don't have nowadays? Sorry, they have to go.
Right, there's one simple thing. It might not be the most important thing, but I do think that it's funny because, like, in school, you are taught about art. You're like being taught to paint and draw. You're being taught music. You're being taught literature. Like, every single art form is present, except architecture. And you know, if you're blind, you can't see a painting, and if you're deaf, you can't hear music. But no matter what you do, you'll always have your life conditioned by architecture. You're born in a building, you live in a building, you go to school in a building, you go to work in a building, you're surrounded by buildings. So architecture really sets the framework for your life. It creates opportunities, or it inhibits possibilities. It can be, you know, it can set you free, or it can shut you up. And somehow there's no education in school about architecture, so that people have such a poor vocabulary and like so little precondition for actually understanding architecture, understanding why do we have cities, why do we have buildings, why do the buildings look the way they do, could they do more, could we ask more of our city, could our cities be more interesting, could our buildings create more opportunities, like do our buildings and cities actually allow us to live the life we want to live, or could we have an even more exciting life if our architecture and our cities and our buildings were more accommodating? And I think in that sense, it would be very valuable, just like we teach people, or like children to sing and dance and draw, to actually teach them why and what architecture is, and why it's interesting and relevant for all of us.
So if you were not an architect, what would you be?
If I wasn't an architect, I would be a cartoonist. That I would make comic books.
Interesting.
But happily I'm an architect, so I don't have to.
Well, but we wanted to know, what would you do if you were not creating and building?
No, but then I would probably have become a cartoonist. And not a priest.
Not a priest. That we already know. In that note, we just need to take a picture, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
For your time.
Definitely.
Thank you for allowing us to La Luchi and La Luchi Foundation to be here with you today.
Siempre un placer.
Un placer, un gran placer, un honor de conocerte, y muchas gracias por tu amabilidad de recibirnos en tus oficinas aquí. Te deseo muchas cosas buenas, muchas bendiciones, y que sigas prosperando y que sigas haciendo todas esas maravillas para que inspires a todos estos nuevos arquitectos, que ellos a través de ti puedan conocer que tienen otra posibilidad de ser diferente, y tener la conciencia y la concientización de crear proyectos tan hermosos como lo que haces tú en todo el mundo. Y esperemos que seas la llama, puedas colaborar con otros, con Latinoamérica, que lo necesitamos bastante.
Aleluya.
Aleluya, okay. Can we take a picture, please, Dan? Yes, if you don't mind, with this. Oh, you have.
Let's do it.
Now we are done because everybody left, but so far Jamie's assistant told me that there were, in 2 months, the capacity of their employees, there were 22 and now they're 55. Wow. In the so this is the temporary space that they have. So this is the cool. Wait, Jamie. Just a little quick thing. Yes. So what was it that you said?
Velkommen til New York, og jeg håber, I har en rigtig god tid her i Big.
Still doing?
We have a lot of interesting people from all over the globe working here. Where is the ice cream? No more ice cream?
That's the site. Downtown. Basically, where the bridge shreds. And there's a apartment that you're not allowed to live closer than 100 feet.
Cerralo, cerralo. Cierra la puerta.